Herbert's 100 harem. The interrogation was going poorly. They had taken his advice and stayed on the alert, but when the woman he was talking to suddenly ran off in an emergency, he had been left alone for a time. Then the door banged open and a pissed-off and clearly armed Platon stomped in. She slams a small device on the table with a pebble of hypercrete in a small field. "Do you know what this is?" she demands, and he gives her an odd look. The sudden hostility meant someone, somewhere either was actively screwing up or had screwed up hard. Enough hypercrete to crack the desk and possibly damage the floor if you remove the gravity barrier. He replies before picking it up. This one in particular is roughly half the thickness of the standard use of hypercrete as a nigh indestructible platform, suggesting it was broken off from the hole at the side or is the result of immense kinetic force outright shattering a hypercrete platform. He sets it down and looks into the glaring eyes of the Platon woman. If she's this honked off, then she's either very ignorant, very stupid, or likely about to lose her job. You don't play good cop, bad cop with a cooperative subject. "Now why was your good friend Miss Slate hurling it around like a toy?" she demands, and Herbert gives her a confused look. "Slate? Is that the Arumenta girl's last name? A bit on the nose there. Granted, I have no room to mock. My last name just means son of another man's, which is even more on the nose," he notes out loud. It was intended to diffuse the tension while answering her question simultaneously. From the looks of it, he's insulted the woman. He sighs in frustration. "All right, lady, why the hell are you so angry with me? I've been completely cooperative and answered every question put to me without issue. I'm upset because your lunatic friends just tried a massive cyber attack on the accounts of dozens of businesses while you are part of an admitted distraction. I'm frustrated because you seem to think that being born with a pair of balls instead of a vag makes you immune to prosecution. And I'm angry because you brought so many weapons into my station that if we pulled them out of your coat, wouldn't fit in the station. What the hell are you planning that you need more weapons than some armies?" She screams at him, and he wipes the specks of spit off his face, unmoved. "You were called in on your day off, and they just told you to hold the fort while they dealt with the gigantic mess, didn't they?" he asks, and her eye twitches. "Ma'am, I was at the scene of the crime and telling people it was a distraction because I defended myself from the lunatic. And when I was ready to hand off the woman to the police, I realized that this was all too stupid and she was acting far too rationally to do something that stupid." "Oh? And I suppose you have some grand reason for carrying an entire military-grade armory in your coat? I wasn't even able to name half the weapons in there." "First off, madam, not all of it is ordnance or ammunition. Half at most, closer to a third, last I did inventory." He had done inventory this morning. It was 5 parts in 12 ordnance and ammunition, just a little over a third, but under a half. Furthermore, I have not only a license chip stitched into the coat on the outside of the pocket for easy scanning, but there is also a stitched-in sign just under the license chip indicating the presence of a license chip and requesting a scan. I saw the list and checked inside that nightmare jacket. You have deadly chemicals in such concentration that it would take mere drops to kill someone. What is that for? There are several human-grade medicines in there. Herbert considers, not bringing up the thermite or more entertaining chemicals that Madame Stepanova had showed him how to use. "I think you're referring to the medical-grade alcohol. It's not for ingestion. It's to be used to clean off dirty wounds to kill potential infections before binding them." "And what about the—" "Did you even bother scanning the chip?" Herbert cuts her off. "What possible excuse could be on there? The legal registration and transportation permits for the equipment. Are you telling me that I filled out that mountain of paperwork in triplicate for nothing?" he demands, and she's taken somewhat aback. "Don't change the subject half size. What the hell does some little boy need enough weapons for a damn army for?" "In case I'm called in on an emergency mission in the middle of my vacation and I need to eliminate an army, What else would it be used for? He asks her in a low voice. He had wanted to play nice, but she's pushing him. Facing armies? Who the hell do you think you are? Sergeant Gregory Thomas, she demands him, and he looks at her oddly. You do know he's played by an actual undaunted soldier, right? Officer Samuel Davis? So no, I don't think I'm Samuel, although the enormous fucker has been trying to weasel out of a bet he owes me. Don't try to confuse the issue with hollow shows, she snarls at him. You're the one who brought it up. He reminds her and she growls. As for who I am Agent Herbert Jameson of the Undaunted, Reconnaissance, Intelligence, and Strategic Asset Elimination. Did you just admit to being a spy? She demands. No, I stated that my fields are reconnaissance, intelligence, and strategic asset elimination. He corrects her stiffly. Wait, recon is getting information, as does intelligence. Why would... She puts things together and steps back and away from him. There is a gigantic crash as whatever the hell she was about to say next is cut off. She gives him a wide-eyed look before rushing to the door and looking out. Oh no, Herbert is already moving and he can sense the Axiom moving as well. He grabs the officer by the back of her shirt and pulls her out of the way of whatever is about to hit her. The door frame and surrounding wall is reduced to pulp. Interesting, he says, as he slips off the binders that had been put on him. It had taken him 3 minutes with a piece of hair to work the mechanism. The hair had been Axiom enhanced as the restraining binders had to let some Axiom through. Otherwise, they would be lethal. Unfortunately for the designers, he needed none to survive, and could therefore focus all of it into manipulating and reinforcing his laterally hairline-wide lockpick. Your girlfriend has broken out. Lady, I'm thoroughly married and not looking to add to the pile, Herbert remarks, and she double takes at the sight of his unbound wrists. Where the hell are you binders? On the table. Come along now. We need to stop the rampaging lunatic before she breaks something or someone important. He tells her as he takes complete control of the situation and steps into the hallway. The pulse of wind laced with Axiom to turn it into a maelstrom of blades is hurled at him, and he fades out of physical space for a moment to let it pass harmlessly. So you're mildly more competent than I assumed. Interesting. Miss Slate looks at him in shock before her face contorts in rage. You ruined it, she screams as she sends a concussive wave of concentrated air at him, and he fades through it before she suddenly ignites it. The explosion does no more damage to him than the wind could, but she was trying to break his focus. Better have tried, but she gets points for having that presence of mind, for knowing that at least half a fight, if not more, is in the head. He rushes forward. He can't afford to stall. She's too happy with collateral. She warps away from his reaching hand with a blast of dust, and he warps probability to follow her. The teleport bought her maybe a second as his hand clamps around her neck, and he sends a disrupting burst of Axiom into her body to scramble her control. A second reaches her forehead and induces lethargy until she hangs in his grip like a puppet with its strings slackened. He then takes stock of where they are, the armory, because of course. He drags his prize out of the cell, straight through the walls, and finds his bearings in the station. He then heads back to the interrogation area, still dragging the lunatic, and walks past the officer even as she presses a laser pistol to the side of his head. He grabs the binders he threw onto the table and puts them on the still unconscious Miss Slate, and then tosses her at the officer. Still think she's a friend of mine? He asks her tartly before sighing. God, I just want this over with. I've got places to go. And do what? She demands. I'm learning from a grand hunt mistress. I'm also taking a vacation with my family. He answers shortly. Look, what do I need to do? What paperwork needs filling or questions need answering so I can leave tomorrow? She stares at him before sighing. I was told to sit on you, then discovered that you had enough weapons in here to knock this entire city out of orbit. Then I looked more into it, and you've been fucking with Hypercrete and smashed the local museum. The information is that you were submitted to interrogation and cooperative, but providing nothing beyond what the video feed did. Did the information tell you that I supplied the video feed from my own person, and voluntarily at that? He asks, and she shakes her head. Oh, for the love of God. Thankfully, things start clearing up after that, as whatever the hell Miss Slate was supposed to be distracting everyone from is wrapped up nice and neat. It's an interesting thing to hear the loose cannon from the buddy cop show get railed by the chief before being called in to be apologized to by the same woman, and is given back his jacket with the entire arsenal worth of weapons inside it. So he walks out of the station and into a massive group hug. His girls had heard about the attack in the station, but he assures everyone that things are fine and the only issue was some miscommunication, and that's all. No point turning the screws in when it's already been done for him. Still, he'll do some extra digging on the station precinct and they move to Skathak. Does that officer have a reputation for things like this? And if so, does it make her more or less effective? Reality can be stranger than any fiction, and finding out that the buddy cop routine or loose cannon act works in some places could be a very interesting thing indeed. If nothing else, it should prove to be an amusing place to watch for the rest of the boys in intelligence. Oh, and the girls they're recruiting as well. The numbers are going up and up and up. A good thing, but a good chunk of their time was spent almost entirely on training now. The only reason the vacation was approved was that he was getting training and testing from ISMA as it happened, and it would also provide insanely useful information. Hell, the Maryatha had been fascinating enough to warrant the trip. The mere possibility of studying a Skathak lava serpent has the lab boys already promising him the moon on a stick. The girls say some unkind thing about the station, but he deflects it all and reminds them that the women there are just doing their jobs in a very weird situation. After all, it's not every day that someone runs into his particular brand of crazy. The obvious answer of one of his girls shouting that they do bring some good-natured laughter, with Herbert laughing the loudest. The rest of the day passes fairly normally as they resume their little tour of the station. This time with all 100 of his girls and Yzma, who insists that everyone, including him, to call her Granny. She leads them to a few places she's familiar with, including a massive bar and grill where numerous native plants and a few animals beyond the Maryatha are prepared to feast on. Herbert makes a point of scanning the menu so that the boys back home can start researching and learning more about this world. He then learns exactly why the old witch was looking so smug when the bar reveals that it not only has a stage but has an all-male performance crew. The only upside is that it's not a strip show, although he makes it an upside when he utterly flabbergasts Yzma by volunteering to go up and be part of it. The fact that the entire bar, staff included, cheered for him just makes it all the better.